In the words of Don Tolliver, the Atlanta Hawks are going to the moon. That's not exactly what he said, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can quote me on that because the Atlanta Hawks and this young core, I just want to talk about their young core as a whole because I've talked about their draft and I've talked about their playoff run, but heading into next year, looking at the depth of this squad, it's ridiculous. I've touched on it briefly, but I think a whole video deserves it because is there anything better to talk about at this point in the offseason than a squad that goes how deep with how much young talent where they're all first round picks that they've hit on and they're coming off the bench or they're starting? It's kind of ridiculous, which is why I'm making a video dedicated to it because it is ridiculous how deep this team is. And that's without even mentioning Big O. Big O, man. It hurts me every time. It hurts me every single time because I know he clamped up Giannis. I know he clamped up Embiid. And some people are disrespecting his 2K rating as well. That's neither here nor there, but he should be higher in 2K. He should be more respected in real life as well because the man was doing fantastic in the playoffs. I was predicting him to have multiple double-double games this season and cement himself as one of the best backup bigs in the league before potentially taking over Clint Capella's starting spot in the next couple of seasons, which we're going to have to wait and see if he can still do. That's my Big O thing out of the way. I just needed to talk about Big O because the man, he's so good. He's so good. He's going to be so good. I can almost bank on that happening, but looking away from Big O, they made some good moves in free agency, some very low-key moves. They didn't need to make a ton of moves. They brought in Delon Wright, like that signing. I'll talk about that. Gorgie Jeng, who can still stretch the floor, a decent backup big. You had to do what you had to do because Big O was obviously supposed to be that backup big, and then you had to change it up, but he's still solid. John Collins re-signed, which a nice deal as well, $25 million a year as opposed to potentially 30, which is what they could have paid. I like that. I like all of the moves they made in the draft. I've talked about the draft, so I won't really get into it, but just know that I really like the picks they made there in terms of the fit, both of them being nice fits, high upside guys. You can trust the Hawks in the draft. You can trust them. Travis Schlenk, the Atlanta Hawks, they've done a very good job. A very good job. There's a reason they're in this position, and it's because of that. Now, before I even go any further, if you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, or if you aren't subscribed, just hit the red button. Just hit it. Just hit it. Like, it's like this, just a red button. That would be nice. That would be appreciated, but let's talk about it. And now, first of all, I want to talk about the confidence these guys will get from the playoffs. Let's just touch on the playoff run. Yes, what could have been. I was hoping they made it to the finals. They didn't, but it was still a fantastic playoff run. But just looking at some of these young guys and the potential confidence they're getting heading into next year. You look at Kevin Huerter, Kayvon, the man himself who dropped 27 in an elimination game 7 against Philadelphia and them packing. Well, kept them packing. They didn't go anywhere else after that because he was fantastic. Kevin Huerter, the confidence he's going to get from a fantastic playoff run. He's still going to be coming off the bench, but he's just going to be good. He's just going to improve. These are guys that are going to improve. Cam Reddish obviously had a fantastic Game 6 against the Bucks. If he can find some consistency, well, then the league's going to be on notice. The league is going to be on notice, and then they're going to have a tough time dealing with what kind of lineups they're going to work with. There's going to be some funky lineups. You've got some other guys that obviously had good games. Let me just touch on Cam Reddish. I'll just touch on him while I'm at it. If he can stay consistent offensively, which he hasn't been able to do, the second half of his rookie year was the most consistent stretch of offensive play he's had in terms of shooting the ball, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, all of those things considered. If he can get back to what he was doing there, then all of a sudden you mix in his defense, which is there. He came off an Achilles injury and he was still balling out defensively against the Milwaukee Bucks. He obviously balled out offensively, but we need to see that more consistently. Defensively, we've seen him guard multiple positions. We saw him disrupting Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and we've seen him do the same thing in the regular season. He's big, he's switchable, he's long, he's athletic, he's got all of those things defensively, and none of those things are going to change anytime soon. So at the very least, you're getting that from him. But you want to see more. His offense, there's flashes, there's potential, there's shooting, there's all of those things. He can handle the ball. He showed off some passing as well. Like, he can do a lot of things. He just needs to piece it together. Whether it's this season or the next, I don't know. But if he can piece together the offense, all of a sudden, the options you have. You've got Bogey. I'm going to touch on Bogey as well because I think he needs to get respected for what he did in the second half of the season. He was fantastic. The playoffs weren't a true reflection of him. He was injured. You've got Trey, obviously. And then you look around that. You've got DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. You could go funky with a little small ball lineup, or maybe you could go tall ball with Cam Reddish at the 2. If Cam Reddish is going to be that good, and you have him at the 2 and Hunter at the 3 and Collins at the 4 and Capella at the 5, or you get rid of Capella and switch in Bogey and downsize, those are some interesting lineups, some very interesting lineups. You also throw in the likes of Kevin Huerter. How about Delon Wright, a combo guard? Can we talk about Delon Wright? Because he's someone that I really like as well, coming off the bench, depth. He was just great for the Pistons. Yeah, he was fantastic. He was someone that shot the 3 ball well. He makes, he defends, he's versatile, he can play the point guard or he can play the shooting guard, or he can probably even fit in as a small forward, as someone that can handle the ball and pick and roll with Trey in a few different unique kind of circumstances. I'm sure they could work out. That would be interesting. A little pick and roll with Delon Wright. I don't think it's something he would have done a ton, but it can work. Bruce Brown has shown it. All of these guys have shown it. You can have these undersized kind of forwards that play that kind of role, particularly with Trey Young, who's going to get double teamed. So that's something I'd be looking out for. But just in general, just to get that kind of depth, I love that move. I love Delon Wright. Gorgie Dieng will be solid. He's not the same level of player as Delon. They brought back Lou Williams, who is getting towards the end of his career. He's been getting towards the end of his career for a while, and he still continues to have big performances. Let's not forget, they wouldn't have made it past the Philadelphia 76ers if it wasn't for Game 4 Lou Will, where he had that second half comeback. Yes, they wouldn't have done that. So let's not throw him away just yet. He's still going to be solid. Just in general, let me just show you the depth. Trey, Lou, Sharif, Delon Wright, Bogey, Huerter, Delon, Lou. These are combo guards that I'm just throwing in there. Hunter, Cam, Jalen Johnson, Collins, Gallo, Jalen Johnson, Capella, Dieng. You get the point. If it wasn't for the Big O injury, which I've already talked about, so I'm not going to get sentimental or sad again on you guys, but if it wasn't for the Big O injury, they would literally have a very, very talented young guy at every single backup position, not to mention 24 and under, Collins, Young, and Hunter in the starting lineup. They would have Reddish, Sharif, Huerter, Jalen Johnson, and Okongwu. 5 guys that are all first-round talent. Sharif Cooper was a first-round talent who didn't go in the first round, and the other guys are first-round talents and have already proven that without Jalen Johnson, all coming off the bench. And all, 23 and under? The depth is insane, not to mention Gallinari, who was just removed from being one of the better bench players in the league for the last few seasons. Gallinari? What are we talking about? Lou Williams, former 6th man of the year? Like, come on now. This depth is insane. Delon Wright, who was a starter just before for the Pistons and the Kings. This depth is just really good, and it's been afforded by smart moves, and a smart move that they did make, which I'm an idiot for whatever I said about John Collins not re-signing him. In fairness, I did say I wouldn't pay him $30 million. I'd pay him like 24 to 25, which is what they paid him. So I was right in that aspect, but I was just so wrong by saying you shouldn't re-sign him. I jumped the gun. I said, Cam Reddish and Deandre Hunter would be fantastic. They've got all these spots and then they can do this and that. No, let me just settle down. John Collins is still a much better player than Cam Reddish. Let's not get carried away. And he's still a fantastic fit alongside Trey Young, a lob threat, a shooting threat. Defensively, he's improved. Just accept one of the dumber things I've said, just because at the very least, even if Cam Reddish does take that leap and you still want the shooting with Bogey, so all of a sudden Collins isn't the right fit, trade him. $25 million a year. I'm sure Dallas will cough up an arm and a leg, or any of these other teams will cough up an arm and a leg to get John Collins on that kind of a deal. So, accept my apology. Sorry, John Collins, fantastic deal. Another one to add to the mix. And you just have these guys around Trey Young that are versatile, that are 3-and-D wings, that can do a number of things. We know what they did in the second half of the season with Nate McMillan. So I need to remind you, you're a Hawks fan, probably watching, so I don't need to remind you, but they were about 30-10. They were a better offense. They were a better defense. Trey Young is an offensive genius. We know that. But you surround him with these 3-and-D wings, these guys like Jalen Johnson, who's a prototypical guy. You got these 3-and-D prototypical wings that are just coming off a conveyor belt for the Hawks right now, and that's great to see. And you need this around Trey Young because everything he does offensively, he's 6 foot and 180 pounds. Is he even 180? Probably 160 pounds. He's got his limits on defense, but they're making up for it. And I love what the Hawks are doing on that aspect of the floor. And just let me touch on Bogey. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit all over the place, but I don't mind because whatever, who cares? But Bogdanovic is someone that I want to talk about because I feel like he was an all-star level player the last 25 or so games of the season, which wasn't just some strange sample size. No, that coincided with Nate McMillan getting hiring just the month before and him also getting healthy at the same time and starting. This is someone that's only a few years into his NBA career. Yes, he just turned 29, but he was on the Kings. So this is his first good team he's played on, alongside Trey Young, alongside a team with spacing and shooting and all these things. So now he's got an opportunity to really thrive. Last 22 games of the season, look at the efficiency. Look at the efficiency. Look at the names. Well, the name, Steph Curry, because the other guys don't fit into this same list because they're not shooting on the same volume as Bogey and Steph. Yes, I'm putting them in the same category because Bogey, last 22 games of the season, how about 22, 4, and 4? How about 22, 4, and 4? This is why I'm so high on this man, and this is why I think he's still got that gear to go to. If he could average 25 and 4 over the course of a season, he takes off some of that playmaking burden of Trey. I would not be rushing to get him out of the starting lineup. I just think Bogdanovic is such a great player. He wasn't healthy in the playoffs. If he can get healthy and have a full season doing this way, he's got Nate McMillan, he's got the newfound spacing that he's going to have in Atlanta, and the confidence. Just watch out. Deandre Hunter, I feel like I've talked about him enough, so I don't want to go into too much depth. I talked about him in players that I think could break out. You can watch that video if you want to. Just know that Hunter is someone I'm predicting to have a breakout season. Clamped up Julius Randle in the playoffs. We all know that, but just sunned him. Just sunned him a little bit. Julius Randle, sorry man, but you got absolutely sunned by Deandre Hunter. He wasn't there in the Philadelphia series, otherwise Tobias Harris would have been yesterday's news. It would have been a wrap. But offensively, he's shown off some self-creation. Once he becomes that consistent threat as the second option, he is who I think is poised to be the second option alongside Trey. That has been the question that has kind of been around the Hawks for a while now since Trey has become that star. Who is going to be the second option? I expect it to be Deandre Hunter. I expect that. John Collins will be fantastic as well, but Hunter is the guy I'm expecting to be that second option. Just looking across the board, is there anything else I need to say about this team? The depth of talent, it just speaks for itself, even though I did the talking, but it speaks for itself when you have Herder, someone that is going to come off the bench alongside Delon Wright. He's going to be fighting for minutes in different positions, in different roles, and he just casually steps into a starting spot and puts up 27 points in the biggest game of his career. That's the kind of thing you got. Or Cam Reddish putting up 20 points in the biggest game of his career. All of these guys stepping up at different moments in the playoffs, just showing next year, the regular season, the confidence they're getting as a team, having all of these guys that have done this. I didn't even mention. Yeah, okay, that's disrespectful. I didn't even mention Solomon Hill. God, I feel bad because Skylar Mays, Brandon Goodwin, shout out to them as well. Skylar Mays actually looked pretty good at times throughout the year as well, and so did Brandon Goodwin, but Solomon Hill, I feel bad for disrespecting it. This Atlanta Hawks team, the depth of it is insane. I'm looking forward to it next year and the years coming because this isn't slowing down anytime soon. It's going to be something to watch. Have a great day. Continue listening to Kanye's new album or whatever you're doing. Nice.